The arrival of the Empire. The blackness of space was silent, endless and empty. Or so the humans thought until the day the sky lit up with thousands of alien warships. The Galactic Empire had arrived. Their ships were not small. They were not fragile. Each vessel was like a floating city, built with technology that had ruled hundreds of worlds for centuries. The alien commanders sat in their glowing thrones, looking at the star charts that showed Earth and its colonies. To them, this new species was nothing but a small obstacle, a planet with fragile bodies, short lives, and no real history compared to the long-lived empires of the stars. The leader of the invasion, High Commander Zealer, stared at the planet below. His voice was calm, but it carried arrogance. Another world to bend, another species to kneel, he declared to his fleet. Prepare the demands. By the end of this cycle, humanity will belong to us. The fleet spread across the solar system like a storm cloud. Their giant warships blocked out the stars, their shadows falling on the human colonies orbiting nearby. Moons. Civilian scanners picked up the invasion within minutes and panic spread. News channels reported the same message again and again. The Empire has come. But humans did not run. Not this time. On the bridge of the UHS Resolute, a human ship that looked far too small compared to the alien vessels, Captain Elias stood at the viewport. His uniform was plain, his ship outdated by galactic standards, yet there was no fear in his eyes. Around him, his crew waited in silence, the weight of the moment heavy on their shoulders. "They are moving into position, Captain," said Lieutenant Mara, her voice tense. "Their numbers. We can't count them all." Elias nodded slowly. "Let them count themselves. Numbers don't decide everything." The first hail came quickly. A deep voice filled the Resolute's communication deck, translated into perfect English by the alien machines. "This is the Galactic Empire. Humanity is now under our rule. You will surrender all weapons, ships, and resources. Resistance will be crushed. Failure to obey means extinction." The crew shifted nervously. Everyone looked at their captain, waiting for him to answer. But Elias did not speak right away. He looked out the window, watching as hundreds of alien warships glowed against the darkness of space. Finally, he smiled. It was not a smile of madness. It was not the weak smile of someone giving up. It was calm, steady, almost amused. He tapped the comms. "Message received," he said simply. The alien voice returned, sharper this time. "You will confirm your surrender now." Elias leaned back in his chair. He let out a small breath, then gave the one response no one expected. He laughed, not a nervous laugh, not the laugh of someone breaking under pressure. It was low at first, then stronger, until the entire bridge felt the strange weight of it. The crew exchanged glances, some confused, some unsettled. The aliens listening through their comms froze in disbelief. No one in the galaxy had ever laughed in the face of the Empire. "What is the meaning of this?" the alien voice snapped. Elias stood. His boots echoed against the steel floor as he walked slowly to the center of the bridge. His eyes burned with something old, something every human carried, even if the galaxy had never seen it before. "You demand our surrender," he said softly. "But you don't know us. You don't know what it took for humanity to survive its own history. You don't know how many times we stood on the edge of extinction. Wars, famine, fire, ice. And we kept going." The crew straightened as they heard his words. The silence was heavy, but it was no longer filled with fear. It was filled with something sharper, something alive. Elias leaned closer to the comms. "You see us as weak. You see fragile bodies, short lives, small ships. But you made one mistake." The alien commander hissed. "And what mistake is that?" The captain's smile grew colder. "You thought fear would control us." The words cut through the silence of the bridge. Even without weapons fired, the first shot had already been taken, spoken by a human voice, carried across the void of space, and landing like a blade in the heart of the Empire's pride. Far above Earth, The two sides hung in silence for a moment that stretched like eternity. The Empire with its countless ships, its endless arrogance. Humanity with a single vessel standing firm against the tide. It was the calm before the storm. And somewhere in that silence, every alien listening realized something was wrong. Humanity was not afraid. Humanity was laughing. The demands of the galaxy. The silence after the captain's laugh stretched across space. On the alien flagship, High Commander Zeeler's scaled hands tightened around the armrest of his throne. Never in all his centuries of service had he heard such defiance. Entire civilizations had fallen at the first sound of his demands. Worlds had burned without a single question. But now, here was a human, a short-lived creature from a backwater planet, mocking the might of the Empire. "Open full transmission," Zeeler growled. "I want all of humanity to hear our words." A galaxy-wide broadcast followed. Every human outpost, every colony, every ship received the message. Screens lit up across Earth's cities and billions watched. Families gathered in fear as the face of the alien commander appeared. His eyes glowed with cold fire, his voice sharp and merciless. "Humans," he declared, "your species now belongs to the Galactic Empire. You will surrender your weapons, you will deliver resources and labor to our fleets. Your governments will step down. Your armies will disband. If you refuse, we will erase your planet from existence. Choose now, submission or extinction." The words echoed across Earth like thunder. Some people trembled, some prayed, others clenched their fists in anger. The Empire had broken countless species with the same words, and now they expected humanity to crumble. But on the bridge of the Resolute, Captain Elias listened with a steady gaze. His crew waited, their hearts pounding, their eyes darting between the alien broadcast and their captain's calm face. "They expect us to kneel," Lieutenant Mara whispered. "Just like everyone else." Elias did not answer immediately. He walked slowly to the viewport, his eyes tracing the outline of the massive alien fleet. Thousands of ships stretched out across the blackness, glowing like a sea of suns. Against them, humanity's scattered fleets seemed pitiful. But the captain's expression never changed. Finally, he turned back to his crew. "Patch me through," he said. The comms officer hesitated. "Sir, to the entire galaxy?" "To the galaxy," Elias confirmed. The officer swallowed hard and activated the channel. Across every human colony, every alien ship, the image of Captain Elias appeared. His uniform was simple, his ship unimpressive, but his voice carried a weight that shook those who heard it. "You ask for our surrender," Elias began, his tone calm. "You demand our weapons, our freedom, our very lives. You think we will bow to fear." He paused, and then his smile returned. The same unsettling smile that had already rattled the alien commander. "But we do not bow. Not to fear. Not to threats. Not to empires." Gasps rippled through the humans watching across the world. Some were stunned, some were inspired, and some began to cheer. The Empire had expected silence, obedience, but instead, the humans were laughing, rising, shouting. Zeeler's voice broke in, filled with fury. "You dare mock us? You are insects. Your species is young, fragile, unworthy of standing before the stars. We offer you survival, and you answer with insults?" Elias leaned forward. "No, you offer slavery, and humanity does not survive by bowing. We survive by fighting." The comms crackled as alien ships began sending encrypted signals back and forth. The commanders were unsettled. For centuries, the galaxy had seen humans as little more than a primitive race. But the way this single captain spoke, it carried more fire than any weapon. On Earth, in crowded cities where people had been afraid only moments before, something shifted. Fear turned into determination. Families looked at one another and whispered, "We will not kneel." On distant colonies, workers and soldiers clenched their fists and stood taller. They were outnumbered, outgunned, surrounded by enemies, but for the first time they felt the truth. Humanity had faced worse before. The alien commander's patience snapped. His voice thundered across the channel. Very well. If you will not obey, then your destruction begins now. We will reduce your fleets to dust and your worlds will burn. On the Resolute, alarms blared as alien warships powered up their weapons. Energy beams began to glow across their hulls, ready to fire. The crew tensed, hands flying across consoles, waiting for the order to retreat, to defend, to survive. But Captain Elias only stood, his hands clasped behind his back, his smile unwavering. "Let them fire," he said softly. His crew stared at him in shock. "Captain?" Elias's voice was steady, calm, almost cold. "They think they have already won. They think they understand us, but they have no idea what waits for them." The first alien shots flared across space, streaks of burning light cutting through the void. The beams ripped toward the Resolute, but just before impact the ship shimmered. For a moment it looked as though it vanished into thin air. The beams tore through empty space. Gasps filled the bridge. "Cloaking," Mara whispered. The captain finally turned, his eyes burning with determination. "They wanted a demonstration. Let's give them one." In the darkness beyond Earth, new signals began to appear. Not one human ship, not 10, but dozens, then hundreds, sliding out of hidden positions across the system, silent, cloaked, waiting for the order to strike. The galaxy watched in shock. The Empire had come to deliver demands. But now, for the first time in centuries, the galaxy realized the truth. Humanity was not prey. Humanity was preparing for war. The hidden power of humanity. The galaxy had always believed humanity to be small, fragile, and unprepared. For centuries, the Empire looked down on Earth as nothing more than a latecomer among the stars. But as the cloaked ships of humanity revealed themselves one by one, that belief began to shatter. From behind moons, from the shadows of asteroids, from hidden orbits, human warships slipped into view. At first, there were dozens, then hundreds. Their designs were not grand or shining like the alien vessels. Many looked rough, built with steel and determination rather than elegance. But each one carried something inside that no alien ship could match: the will to survive. On the alien flagship, High Commander Zayler's eyes widened for the first time in centuries. "Impossible," he hissed. "They should not have this." Many ships. Our record showed only a handful of fleets. A younger alien officer looked nervous. "Commander, it appears their records were hidden. They've been building in secret." "Building?" Zayler growled. "No, this is not building. This is defiance." On the bridge of the Resolute, Captain Elias watched as his fleet decloaked. Around him, one by one, human captains sent their signals. Their voices filled the comm, steady and sharp. Atlas standing by. Vanguard locked on target. Sentinel ready to fire. Every call was a reminder. Humanity was not standing alone. It was rising together. Lieutenant Mara whispered, "They never knew. They never guessed we had this much strength." Elias nodded. His eyes did not leave the glowing wall of alien warships. "That is because they never looked beyond the surface. The galaxy sees our bodies, short-lived, fragile. They see our ships, smaller, older. But they never looked into our history." He stepped closer to the viewport, his voice carrying across the bridge. "Humanity was forged in struggle. We survived fire, ice, plagues, and wars that nearly ended us. Every time we adapted. Every time we endured. And now?" He raised a hand toward the vast fleet. "We rise not as prey, but as predators." Cities across Earth, people cheered as hidden footage from the Resolute streamed to every screen. For the first time they saw their fleets, ships they never knew existed, emerging from the shadows. Miners, farmers, engineers, children, they all felt it. The fear that had gripped them since the Empire's arrival began to fade. Hope lit up their eyes. On alien-controlled worlds across the galaxy, species enslaved by the Empire also watched. They saw humans standing tall against the might of the fleet, and something unfamiliar stirred inside them. Could this fragile race be the one to challenge their masters? The first clash came suddenly. An alien cruiser fired a barrage of plasma, bolts at one of the newly revealed human ships. But instead of breaking apart, the human vessel shifted, panels opening across its hull. Strange metallic wings extended, glowing with energy. Then the ship vanished. The alien crew screamed as sensors failed to track it. A heartbeat later, the cruiser shuddered as a lance of kinetic fire tore through its core. One shot. One kill. The alien vessel exploded in silence, its burning remains scattering across space. On the bridge of the Resolute, Mara's eyes widened. Direct hit. From a railgun? Elias smiled faintly. Not just a railgun, an evolution of one. We turned our old weapons into something the galaxy has never seen. Another human ship unleashed its secret. Swarm drones, thousands of small machines darting through the void, slipping past alien shields to tear open weak points. Another alien ship collapsed in flames. The Empire's officers shouted in confusion. Their weapons, what are these designs? Our shields are failing. Their tactics, they're unpredictable. High Commander Zayler slammed a clawed hand against his throne. Unacceptable. We are the Empire. We cannot lose to vermin. But already, the battlefield was shifting. Humanity was not fighting with sheer numbers. They fought with creativity, with madness, with ideas no alien mind had dared to try. On Earth, old veterans watching the broadcast chuckled. They remembered stories from human history, when their ancestors had been outnumbered but still found a way to win. Guerrilla tactics, ambushes, desperate inventions, humans had always turned weakness into strength. Now the galaxy was seeing that history come alive. A young child watching from a small colony whispered to her mother, "They're laughing, Mama, just like the captain. Why are they laughing?" Her mother, with tears in her eyes, whispered back, "Because we are human. And when the world tells us we should fear, we laugh instead." On the battlefield, Captain Elias finally gave the order. His voice cut through the comms, steady and clear. "Fleet, advance." Hundreds of human ships moved as one. They did not move like the alien armadas, rigid and predictable. They twisted, turned, broke apart and regrouped, their formations changing in seconds. It was chaos, and yet it was controlled chaos, guided by the raw instinct of survival. Alien ships fired in all directions, but their weapons struck empty space. Every time they thought they had trapped the humans slipped away, only to strike from a new angle. The laughter of humanity spread across comms, across ships, across the stars. It was not madness, it was defiance, a sound that carried the weight of every battle humans had ever fought to survive. And as the first wave of the Empire's fleet fell in flames, the galaxy began to understand the truth. Humans were not the weakest race. They were the most dangerous. The confrontation. The battlefield of space had turned into fire and chaos. Alien warships, once symbols of galactic dominance, now struggled against a human fleet that should not have existed. Explosions lit up the void as steel, plasma, and fire collided in silence. The Empire had expected obedience. Instead, they found resistance that fought with ferocity no machine could predict. On the alien flagship, High Commander Zayler watched the unfolding battle with disbelief. Ship after ship of his mighty fleet was falling. Shields collapsed under strange human weapons, hulls ripped apart by tactics that made no sense. Humans fought as if they were not bound by rules of strategy. They fought like predators that had tasted blood. "How are they doing this?" Zayler roared. "We outnumber them 10-1. His officers trembled. "Commander, their formations shift too quickly. They do not follow any pattern. Every time we adjust, they change again." Zayler's claws dug into his throne. "Then, crush them with brute force. Bring in the dreadnoughts." 3 colossal alien dreadnoughts advanced, each the size of a small moon. Their weapons could erase cities with a single blast. The galaxy had always bowed before them. No race had ever survived their firepower. On the Resolute, alarms screamed as sensors tracked the dreadnoughts. Lieutenant Mara's voice cracked. "Captain, those ships, one hit, and we're gone. We can't fight that." But Captain Elias only narrowed his eyes. "Every empire thinks size is strength. Let's remind them what small can do." He gave the order, calm and sharp. "Signal the swarm." The crew obeyed, hands moving quickly, over consoles. From the bellies of human ships, thousands of micro-drones swarmed into the void. They were tiny, barely larger than a man, but fast. Too fast for the dreadnoughts' massive cannons to track. The swarm moved like a storm cloud, scattering, twisting, and reforming in seconds. They slipped into cracks of alien shields, cut through exposed vents, and drilled into the massive engines. The first dreadnought shuddered. Then it burned. On Earth, billions watching the broadcast erupted into cheers. The image of the dreadnought's destruction flashed across every screen. The impossible had happened. The titans of the Empire could fall. The second dreadnought retaliated, firing its superweapon. A beam of white fire cut across space, vaporizing 3 human ships in seconds. The bridge of the Resolute shook as shockwaves rippled through. For a moment, silence filled the human crew. 3 ships, hundreds of lives, gone. But Elias's voice cut through the silence like steel. "Mark their shot. Trace the recharge time. We strike before they fire again." His crew straightened. The humans moved faster than any alien AI predicted. They darted between the beams, closing distance, unleashing railgun fire and missile storms at close range. The second dreadnought cracked apart under the relentless assault, exploding in a ball of fire that lit up the battlefield. The last dreadnought turned, retreating slightly. Even its crew, proud servants of the Empire, felt fear. They had never seen prey bite back so hard. But Zealer's rage only grew. He slammed his claws on the console. "No retreat! Advance and annihilate them!" The dreadnought obeyed. Its cannons glowed brighter, charging for another shot. But before it could fire, a new signal filled the void. Another wave of human ships uncloaked. Not dozens, not hundreds, thousands. Across the solar system, hidden fleets emerged. Old freighters refitted as warships, mining vessels turned into gun platforms, stealth ships bristling with weapons. Humanity had been preparing in silence for years, hiding its strength beneath the surface. Now, all of it was revealed. "The galaxy," gasped. Zealer's command crew froze in terror. "This is impossible. How could they build so much without us knowing?" Elias's voice answered across the comms, steady and cold. "Because you never looked. You thought us weak. You thought us prey. While you ruled, we built. While you threatened, we planned. And while you laughed at us, we sharpened our knives." The confrontation reached its peak. The human fleet surged forward, thousands of ships moving with deadly precision. Alien ships broke formation, struggling to keep up. Their mighty weapons were too slow, their defenses too rigid. Humanity fought, like chaos itself, every ship an unpredictable blade. The final dreadnought collapsed under fire, torn apart by swarms of drones and railgun blasts. The explosion lit up the void brighter than a star. On Earth, people shouted, cried, and laughed. Across the galaxy, enslaved species whispered in awe. The Empire was bleeding. On the Resolute, Mara stared at her captain. "Sir, we're winning." Elias did not smile. His voice was calm, but his eyes burned with fire. "No, this is only the beginning. The Empire came to break us. Instead, we showed them what humans are." He looked out at the burning wreckage of the enemy fleet. "Now they will learn to fear our laughter." For the first time in centuries, the galaxy watched the impossible. The Empire, shaken, staggering, uncertain. And in the silence after the battle's roar, one truth spread faster than fire across the stars. Humans were not kneeling. Humans were rising. The laughter that shook the galaxy. The battlefield was no longer silent space. It was a graveyard of burning ships. Alien wreckage floated among the stars like shattered crowns of an empire that thought itself eternal. The once proud Galactic fleet, 1,000 strong, had been torn apart. Dreadnoughts were gone, cruisers shattered, frigates scattered in panic. For the first time in living memory, the Empire's banner had been burned by a race no one thought could fight back. But the battle was not over. Not yet. On the alien flagship, High Commander Zayler's voice shook with fury. "This cannot be. We are the Empire. We are order. We do not fall to savages." His officers no longer looked at him with certainty. Fear had entered their eyes, fear they had never known before. In their minds, one thought whispered again and again, "The humans are winning." On the Resolute, Captain Elias stood firm, his hands behind his back as if he were not standing in the middle of history. His ship was scarred, his fleet battered, but their spirit was alive, burning hotter than any fire. "Sir," Mara said, her voice trembling with awe, "the Empire, they're breaking." Elias nodded. "Good. Let them see it. Let the whole galaxy see it." He opened a full broadcast channel, not just to the Empire, but to every world, every colony, every species listening. His voice spread across the stars like a blade of truth. "This is Captain Elias of humanity. To the Empire, you demanded our surrender. You told us to kneel. And yet," he paused, his voice low but sharp, "you are the ones on your knees." Across Earth, billions erupted in cheers. Across enslaved alien worlds, whispers turned into cries of hope. Species that had been silent for generations now raised their heads. The galaxy had seen something it had never seen before. A race that laughed in the face of death, and then made that laughter into victory. On the alien flagship, Zayler snarled. He slammed his claws into the console, shattering it. "You will regret this. Humanity will be erased from the stars." But even as he spoke, more of his fleet jumped to hyperspace, abandoning the fight. Commanders who once ruled without question were now fleeing. Fear spread faster than orders. Elias's voice came again, calm and merciless. "You came to break us. But you only woke us up. Humanity was forged in fire, in famine, in wars that should have ended us. We learned to fight when we had nothing. We survived when we had no chance, and now..." His eyes burned as he stared into the stars. "Now, the galaxy will remember our laughter." The bridge of the Resolute filled with silence. Then, one by one, the crew began to laugh. It was not forced, it was not madness. It was relief, defiance, triumph, a sound born from survival itself. The laughter spread, ship to ship, fleet to fleet, world to world, soldiers in trenches, miners on distant moons, children watching from cities, all joined in. Billions of voices rising, a storm of human laughter that carried across the stars. And for the first time, the Empire felt something it had never felt before. Not anger, not pride, fear. On alien worlds, slaves heard the sound. They lifted their heads, and many began to laugh too. For generations they had obeyed, crushed under chains. But now, hearing that sound, they remembered what freedom could feel like. The galaxy shifted that day. The sound of human laughter did what no weapon could. It cracked the Empire's mask of invincibility. Back on Earth, news screens replayed the broadcast again and again. Children pointed at the captain's face and said, "He wasn't afraid." Veterans whispered, "That's humanity." Families embraced, their fear replaced by pride. In the darkest corners of space, even enemies of Earth whispered among themselves, "The humans, they are dangerous." On the alien flagship, Zayler sat in silence as the last of his fleet fled. The arrogance that had carried the Empire for centuries felt hollow now. The humans had not just won a battle. They had shown the galaxy something new, something terrifying. He whispered to himself, "They should not have laughed." On the Resolute, Captain Elias finally sat down, exhaustion heavy on his shoulders. Mara looked at him, her eyes shining. "Sir, what now?" He leaned back in his chair, his voice low but certain. "Now the galaxy will choose. They can rule by fear, or they can learn to live by respect. And if they don't..." He smiled faintly, that unsettling, steady smile. "We'll remind them again. The stars outside glowed with the fire of fallen ships. The laughter still echoed across the comms. Humanity had made its mark, not with surrender, not with silence, but with defiance. And as the galaxy listened, one truth became clear. The Empire had confronted human ships, they had issued demands, and humanity answered with laughter that shook the stars.